Hi there. So here we are for chapter 50 of Odd Thomas. When we left Odd, um, he'd been hearing he's in Bob Robertson's house, trying to look around and find clues as to who his collaborator is, who's going to be doing this damage. And he keeps hearing these noises. And anyway, he walked back in the kitchen after finding no one, and Bob Robertson is there. Um, So here we go, chapter 50. For a dead man who no longer had a stake in the schemes and games of this world, Robertson lingered with singular ferocity, as infuriated as he had been when I had watched him from the bell tower at St. Bart's. His mushroom colony body now seemed powerful, even in its lumpiness. His soft face and blurry features hardened and sharpened with rage. No bullet hole, scorch mark, or stain marred his shirt. Unlike Tom Jed, who carried his severed arm and pretended to use it as a back scratcher out there at Tire World, Robertson was in denial of his death, and he chose not to sport his mortal wound, just as Penny Callisto had initially manifested without evidence of strangulation, acquiring the ligature marks only in the company of Harlow Anderson, her killer. In high agitation, Robertson circled the kitchen. He glared at me, his eyes wilder and more fevered than those of the coyotes at the Church of the Whispering Comet. When I had begun to out him, I had unintentionally made him a liability to his collaborator, setting him up for murder, but I had not pulled the trigger. Evidently, his hatred for me nonetheless exceeded what he harbored for the man who had killed him. Otherwise, he would have done his haunting elsewhere. Ovens to refrigerator to sink to ovens, he circled while I stooped and picked up the cell phone that I dropped earlier. Dead, he didn't worry me a fraction as much as he had when I had thought he'd been alive in the churchyard. As I clipped the phone to my belt, Robertson came to me, loomed before me. His eyes were the gray of dirty ice, yet they conveyed the heat of his fury. I met his stare and didn't retreat from him. I've learned that it's not wise to show fear in these cases. His heavy face indeed had the quality of a fungus, but a meaty variety, very portobello. His bloodless lips drew back from teeth that had seen too little of a brush. He reached past my face and cupped his right hand against the back of my neck. Penny Callisto's hand had been dry and warm. Robertson's felt damp and cold. This was not his real hand, of course, only part of an apparition, a spirit image, that only I could have felt. But the nature of such a touch reveals the character of the soul. Although I refused to shy from this unearthly contact, I cringed inwardly at the thought of the creep playing with the 10 souvenirs in his freezer. The visual stimulation of those frozen trophies might not always satisfy. Perhaps he thawed them now and then to increase his tactile pleasure and to conjure a more vivid memory of each kill, tweaking, pinching, petting, caressing, planting tender kisses upon those mementos. No spirit, however evil, can harm a living person merely by touch. This is our world, not theirs. Their blows pass through us, and their bites draw no blood. When he realized that he could not make me cower, Robertson lowered his hand from my neck. His fury doubled, trebled, wrenching his face into a gargoyle mask. One way exists for certain spirits to harm the living. If their character is sufficiently pernicious, if they give their hearts to evil until malevolence ripens into incurable spiritual malignancy, they are able to summon the energy of their demonic rage and vent it upon the inanimate. We call them poltergeists. I once lost a brand new music system to such an entity, as well as the handsome award plaque for creative writing that I had won in that high school competition judged by little Ozzie. As he had done in the sacristy at St. Bart's, Robertson's wrathful spirit stormed through the kitchen, and from his hands streamed pulses of energy that were visible to me. The air quivered with them, a sight similar to the concentric ripples that spread across water from the impact point of a stone. Cabinet doors flew open, slammed shut, opened shut, banging even louder and with less meaning than the jaws of ranting politicians. Dishes erupted from shelves, each cutting through the air with a whoosh of a discus thrown by an Olympian. I ducked a drinking glass, which exploded into an oven door, spraying sparkling shrapnel. Other glasses spun wide of me, shattering against walls, cabinets, countertops. Poltergeists are all blind flurry and thrashing torment, without aim or control. They can harm you only by indirection, a lucky blow. Even by indirection and chance, however, decapitation can ruin your day. Accompanied by the hardwood applause of clapping cabinet doors, Robertson flung bolts of power from his hands. 2 chairs danced in place at the dinette table, tapping on the linoleum, clattering against the table legs. At the cooktop, untouched, 4 knobs turned, 4 rings of gas flames shimmered eerie blue light into the otherwise gloomy kitchen. Alert for deadly projectiles, I edged away from Robertson and toward the door by which I'd entered the house. A drawer shot open and a cacophony of flatware exploded out of it, glittering and clinking in a levitated frenzy, as if starving ghosts were carving forking spooning a dinner as invisible as they were themselves. I saw those utensils coming. They passed through Robertson with no effect on his ectoplasmic form, and I turned aside, brought up my arms to shield my face. The flatware found me as iron will find a magnet, pummeled me. 1 fork speared past my defenses, stabbed my forehead, and raked back through my hair. When this brittle rain of stainless steel rang to the floor behind me, I dared to lower my arms. Like some great troll capering to a dark music that only he could hear, Robertson punch-clawed twisted the air, appearing to howl and shout, but thrashing in utter silence of the mute departed. The upper cabinet of the ancient Frigidaire sprang open, disgorging beer and soft drinks, the plate of ham, strawberry pie, a vomitous deluge that splashed and clattered across the floor. Ring tabs popped, beer and soda gouted from spinning cans. The refrigerator itself began to vibrate, violently knocking side to side against the flanking cabinetry. Vegetable drawers clattered. Wire shelves jangled. Kicking aside rolling cans of beer and scattered flatware, I continued toward the door to the carport. A juggernaut rumble alerted me to the fast approach of sliding death. I dodged to my left, skidded on a foamy sludge of beer and a bent spoon. With its grisly freight of frozen body parts still nestled in the freezer drawer, the Frigidaire slid past me and crashed into the wall, hard enough to make the studs crack behind the plaster. I plunged outside, into the shadows under the carport, and slammed the door behind me. Inside, the tumult continued, the thump and crash, the rattle and bang. I didn't expect Robertson's tortured spirit to follow me, at least not for a while. Once committed to a frenzy of destruction, a poltergeist will usually thrash out of control until it exhausts itself and wanders off in confusion to drift again in a purgatory zone between this world and the next. Oh my goodness. All right, that was chapter 50. See you next time for chapter 51. Later.